If you're an HR professional who works hard to fill roles within your company, keep employees engaged, and build company culture, welcome to America Back to Work, where dreams only work if we do. We'll share wide-ranging issues surrounding pre-employment background screening, HR topics such as recruiting, hiring, labor trends, and company culture, as well as broader HR-influenced business topics such as customer experience, service level excellence, and protecting what matters through best practices in prevention, protection, and corporate security. America Back to Work is brought to you by S2 Verify. Here's your host, Arnette Heintze.
Welcome to America Back to Work, brought to you by S2 Verify, where our purpose is to help you hire with confidence and manage insider risk. I'm your host, Arnette Heintze. Today I'm joined by Alex Genetti. Alex is a career HR professional who serves as the head of people for Enable, a very fast-growing company. Alex has extensive experience in managing every facet of the employee life cycle, given her previous roles leading people operations with companies like Two Chair, Scout RFP, and Livongo. Alex, I know our audience is going to enjoy hearing about your insights and perspectives today, especially since you're in the HR role. But before we dive in, would you mind telling us more about Enable, the role you serve with them, and what attracted you to the field of human resources?
Absolutely. So Enable, whopping roughly 4 years old at this point, just approaching 4. We are a rebate solution for enterprise businesses software. We help companies manage their rebate and incentive solutions collaboratively with any of their vendors, any of their manufacturers, distributors, what have you. I've been here for just about 18 months, and I actually consulted for 6 months prior to joining full-time, and that's what kind of wet my whistle, if you will, for joining the team as a full-time head of people. I've had the privilege of working with some of the folks on the executive staff here with me before, and I was at Cheers, very happy, loving life there. The mission of that company is to bring affordable mental health care to the world, and I love that. I'm so passionate about that. So I was living my best HR life at Two Chairs when our president here at Enable, Jerry, called me and said, "Hey, I just started this wonderful company. You need to come work for Enable." And I thought, yeah, great to hear from you. I hope the kids are good. Kind of wrote it off. And the true salesman that he is convinced me to just have a conversation with our CEO, Andrew. And within 15 minutes, I knew how big of an opportunity Enable was going to be, and that I would have been a real dumb HR professional not to take that opportunity. So I wasn't ready to move yet. I consulted Andrew for about 6 months, consulted our CFO, Nick Rose, as well, who's actually our first customer turned CFO. Real serendipitous there. And within 2 months, I found out that I liked Enable a lot.
Fabulous. Well, I know, given your career experience in human resources, that you've seen this role change over the years, especially in the last 5 years. I think there's been dramatic change. And the last 2 years, the whole world has been turned upside down with HR. What do you see as the current challenges in this role, and how to best serve people in the organization today? What comes top of mind?
I think right now the newest challenge, certainly the newest, perhaps the biggest challenge that we're facing is employees want something else now. We're in a post-COVID, hopefully for most of us listening, we're in a post-COVID world, and at the 9 to 5 every day in office environment isn't doing it for a lot of people anymore. We got used to being home when our kids got home from school. We got used to being able to throw a load of laundry in at lunchtime and have all your laundry done by the end of the day because it's moving in the background for you. So I think the biggest challenge now is figuring out where to meet employees in the middle. If we've decided as an organization we're an on-site first business, how do we make that attractive enough to the teams to come back? And conversely, if we're now a remote first business, how are we moving our business around that to still hit all the goals that we need to with our teams possibly spread out throughout the world? Enable is both. We're a hybrid environment, full-time for certain roles, dedicated remote for others. And so we've had a really hard time trying to figure out how to bridge that gap culturally from performance bar standard, pay differences, right? All those things vary so much when you introduce this hybrid world. And I think one of the biggest challenges employers are going to be seeing for a while is how to pivot to make sure that we're meeting employees where they are, but not caving too much to where business outcomes could be at risk.
Yeah, that's great. I think corporate leadership today is finding the strategic value of people, operations, and HR. What are some of the ideas you have around helping you showcase the value that HR brings to the table, to get that seat and to help bring value to the whole business?
Oh, I love that question. I have a long answer and a short answer. The short answer to your question is data talks, right? Everyone knows how expensive it is to lose people. You can approximate around, depending on the seniority of the role, about 50% of an employee's salary could be at risk if you terminate them early, if they leave early. It's expensive to lose people. It's expensive to hire, especially right now. So when we're talking strategy, obviously, my goal as a people leader is to keep and retain the right people and help them be successful to drive our desired business outcomes. To make sure you're effectively holding a strategic seat at the table, if you will, it's really difficult to prove that you're effective without that data, right? Data talks, money talks. If you can come to the table and show or prove any type of outcome that you're looking for with data and walk the business, if you will, to use a finance term, walk them through where you are, where you need to be, and what you're going to do to get there with data. I think that's the only way to prove your strategic wit, if you will. But before you get there, you have to have data. You have to know what to survey for. You have to know what to measure. You have to know how to do all that safely in each country that you operate in for any of us that are global. So the long answer to your short question is, in order to even think about being strategic, you have to have the right data in place and know how to walk the business through that data. My COO had no idea what regretted attrition was. That's a lie. He does. But for COOs that may not have seen that word before, how are you educating them and making sure that what you're walking them through is landing, they understand it, and they understand how it will impact the business, that you can then tie back to business outcomes like saving money.
Yep. In addition to like rate of attrition, what maybe one or two other measurements that you're finding more interest in from your executives?
We track quite a bit. I would say the hottest topics for us right now are onboarding velocity. How quickly is someone giving us ROI on their candidacy, right? How quickly does an account executive pass their certification that lets them hit the phones? How soon into an engineer's tenure are we giving them the keys to the kingdom, right? What is that onboarding velocity? When are they effective? Our engagement surveys are also hugely important. We ask, on a scale of 1 to 10 every month, are you likely to refer a friend to work for Enable? It's an ENPS score, Employee Net Promoter Score. That is a huge indicator for me. I check that every single day. I shouldn't. It's like checking your credit score, but I do. Another one for us is regretted attrition. Like you mentioned, that's a huge one. We want to make sure we're keeping our top performers and investing in them to where they feel the value that we see and ultimately receive from them. So on top of attrition, I would say the regretted attrition, we want to keep that as low as possible. Some attrition is necessary, right? Not everyone, especially when you're hiring in mass. We added over 300 people this year. There's no way, just by sheer, rule of numbers, that they're all going to be successful top performers. So how are we figuring that out quickly and moving them out of the business in a respectful and fast way? So Another long answer to your short question.
Yeah. Well, thanks. So, you mentioned onboarding in that response there. So what are the elements of a successful onboarding program, and why is this so important in the hiring process?
I love that. So for those of you that might not have heard of this concept before, there's this overarching concept for onboarding called the 3 C's of onboarding: culture, connection, and oh my gosh, there's a third one. Oh my gosh, I just did a whole presentation to our customer success group on this. 3 C's of onboarding. Basically, our goal is to make sure that we've built a program that can apply to everyone, while also digging deeper into the departmental needs that might vary from department, from country. For example, we have a onboarding program called Enable U, the play on the word university, but it's YOU. Our goal is to get everyone through onboarding as fast as possible to make sure that they're going through this month-long process. They're making friends. They're connecting with their coworkers. They're learning about the business. They're getting the tools, the access, the things that they need to do their job well, so that by the time we hit, for an account executive, it's day 9. For an engineer, it's day 30. For someone in customer success, it might be day 90. By the time we've decided, okay, you need to be contributing to the business now, we need that return on investment from you, we know we've done absolutely everything we can to enable them to do that. And that looks a little bit different, like I said, based off of each role, but there are consistencies that everyone is asked to go through. So no matter what, everyone that joins Enable listens to a section from our CEO once a month. No matter what, everyone goes through the same DEI training. Everyone goes through the same security and awareness training. Everyone meets with me in their first month. Everyone gets those same touch points, but then depending on their role, they might have 30, 60, 90, they might have an AE certification, they might have other things that would enable them to be successful quickly. But it has to be tight. The people team works really, really hard on the Enable You program to make sure that there are no excuses and that there's no way for us to make sure that someone else isn't succeeding.
Yeah. I think companies today are finding that employees are asking for so much more support across the board on different topics, but they also want, a better work-life balance. How does HR step in here, with leaders of a business and the employees to help meet these demands on both sides of the equation?
That's a great question. And it's a tough line to walk sometimes, especially when you're in an environment that is high volume hiring. A startup is a great example. Many of us are in scale up mode where we're just piling on people as fast as possible until a few months ago. And a lot of us in the tech world took the opposite approach and we scaled back headcount because we hired them as fast as possible. I think it's really up to people orgs. And when I say people, I mean HR. We call ourselves the people team here. The common joke of, being human resources, like human remains, just landed too well with this business. So we changed to people. It's our job to make sure that we are giving every employee the tools to succeed in every stage of the employee life cycle. So for example, we're in the middle of our performance review cycle right now. I went through 7 hours of calibration today. The 3 goals of our performance and review program is not to give the team more money. It's not to identify promotions. Our 3 goals at Enable is that everyone walks away from this program, which is biannual, knowing what's expected of them, knowing where they stand against that expectation, and knowing that someone cares about them. And it's really difficult to set boundaries with your employer. It's really difficult to understand what you need to do. Maybe if you're concerned about your work-life balance, what is expected of you? Do you understand that? That's the first step in making sure you're having that conversation with your manager, because that's ultimately what it comes down to, is that relationship with your manager, what the business needs from you. Are you aligned on those 2 things? Do you know what's expected of you? And do you know where you stand against that? I think it would be a pretty blind spot to assume that no matter what, everyone's only going to have a 9 to 5 opportunity. If you're specifically in the tech world, if you're in a high volume environment, there might be times where you're asked to stay overtime and maybe put in an extra half an hour, or you're asked to change your shift, or you're asked to do something on the weekends. I think we're looking for people specifically at Enable that are raising their hand and looking for those opportunities. And so for us, work-life balance is a major, major, major thing, but it can't exist if the employees don't know what's expected of them in the first place. And so make sure that they have that enablement, and then encourage them to work with our managers if they're having any issues. And then we step in after that to make sure that all of our bases have been covered, our employee resources have been exhausted, and that we're not accidentally treating someone unfairly.
Yeah. So the last couple of years that Enable has been around, I understand it's just a rapid growth. And, so you guys, the leadership team, help form and shape some culture there. How are you finding that the culture that was established, how's the organization sustaining it, enhancing it, and connecting it with the company?
That's a great question. I have a really unique answer, because I think we effectively blew it up 2 years ago. We changed absolutely everything about the business. We started in the UK. That's actually where I am today. I'm calling you from Stratford-upon-Avon in England. Beautiful towns where Shakespeare was born, also where Enable was born, and we hope that sticks eventually. But this was the hub. We only had 100 people here. It was a slow mover. We had our series, I think seed funding. We were still getting our product market fit down. And then we just really hit the gas pedal. And we went from 100 to almost 500 in less than 3 years. It was really, really quick growth, and we broke everything. As you would expect, when you have that quick of scale, you just can't staff fast enough to make sure that there's business continuity absolutely everywhere. But what also broke, I think, for the better, was the original culture that we had, and we've enhanced it. So we've added Australia, we've added America, we've added Toronto, and cities within each of those countries. And with that addition comes a lot of different cultures, a lot of different ways to communicate, different ways to approach problems. And we redid our values this last year. And I think that was probably the defining moment of what our culture has evolved into and where we want it to grow. We have 4 values. They are: we stay curious, we do whatever it takes, we care about the details, and all of those roll up into we succeed together. We're a 24/5 business model. We have people online literally every business day. And so we have to succeed together. That was the one value that every executive agreed on really, really, really quickly. And then we kind of backtracked and said, okay, how do we get there? How do we make sure that our culture is collective success? Everybody has equity in the business. Everybody has a variable bonus plan. Those are the easy ones, right? Behavior-wise, how do we get there? We stay curious. We're always learning. We're always challenging each other. We do whatever it takes. We make sure that we're sharpening our Excel skills. We make sure that we're maybe putting in that extra 30 minutes at the end of the day to prepare ourselves for tomorrow. We do whatever it takes and care about the details so that we can succeed together. And those 4 values have been such a major driver of our culture, and it has built such a familial environment. No one's unwilling to raise their hand or help for even the smallest things. And when I think about the word culture, it's a very elusive word. I think everyone has a different definition for it. But when I think about it, it's how do I feel when I step into the office? How do I feel when I go to work? And my answers to that are I feel supported, and I know this team cares about me as a person, not just Alex, the head of people. But I'm getting married this year. Everyone has asked me how it's going, giving me tips. Lord knows I need them. And that's what I want when I go to work, right? I'm very passionate about the rebate space. We're building a giant solution for a huge, huge, huge problem, and that's wonderful. But what gets me going every day, the culture that I want to not only, exhibit, but be a part of is one that cares about me, that we succeed together in. And I'm really proud of what we've built through all of our programs and those values.
Now I understand why Enable is growing so fast. You've got some great values, and you're getting your team aligned to that, and you can't stop it with that type of alignment. So, employees today, I think more now than ever before, are really seeking, further development, professional development in an organization. What's the best way that you're finding that your team's meeting that demand, and your advice to other HR professionals on the best way to approach that?
Mm-hmm. This is tough, especially right now, because at least in my experience, I'm in the tech world. A lot of budgets are being cut, and typically learning and development, or L&D, is one of the first things to go. And we really early on heard from a lot of our people, hey, I'm really bullish on Enable. I'm excited to be here. I can't get to that next level without help. How are you going to help me? And those are the type of people that we've been attracting. I mean, we stay curious after all. That's one of our values. So we would have been really remiss if we didn't have some sort of learning and development program. In the beginning, when we built this program about a year ago, our L&D program had no funding, right? We had maybe 300 people. I had to prove a business case before I could achieve any funding from our team, rightly so. And so to kind of get our feet wet in the business, in the space, I thought, okay, we've got a lot of really wonderful internal experts on all different types of topics. Our CFO is wonderful with time management, my Lord. I've been a people manager for such a long time. I can speak to how to give really good feedback. Andrew, our CEO, is operationally excellent. He is the ultimate process guy. So what can we harness internally? I don't want to say for free, because no one's free, but for less money that we could help the business benefit from. And so we built an extension of Enable U, the onboarding program. Once you graduate from that, you are shifted then into Enable U learning and development. And we have an internal list of, I think, up to now, like 26 courses that people have raised their hands to teach. Our head of talent teaches hiring best practices. Our head of IT teaches how to spot a phishing scam. Each one of us that have honed in on these specific skills, we've raised our hands to teach these to the rest of the business. And we've had so many people sign up to listen to these courses. I taught a course last Thursday called Management Nuts and Bolts. And it's really just the quick up and down of what it means to be a good manager. Show up for your people, setting the tone, always be hiring. Really what a lot of us who've been in management for a long time would kind of just have on autopilot in the background. But what we forget is that in high growth companies like this, a lot of times managers are promoted up, and we forget to give them those resources and develop them in that way. And so we built as many learning opportunities as we can for those people, but also for those that have never managed global teams before, or you've never been in a global team before. How do you talk to someone in Australia and get something done in Australia when you're in San Francisco? So we've pulled in as many internal resources as we can to educate the business on anything that they want to be educated on. And that was such a success that we ended up getting budget for the next year, partner with a company called Sage. They're a dedicated career coaching platform. And now all of our top performers from each performance cycle get a 6-month-long Sage coaching license. So we were scrappy in the beginning. We pulled internal resources. We proved the concept that our people really want to be developed and are staying curious. And then once we saw how many people were raising their hand to not only teach courses, but attend them, we said, okay, there's a real opportunity here. We can further invest in our people, raise that ENPS score. and put some funds behind this program. So that's how we got where we are now.
So, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of different trends with hiring and retention today, but what are some of the top trends there that other companies might be missing?
That's a really good
question. Jumps out at you that you kind of go, this is kind of new for me, and any idea there of how that somebody else might learn from that experience?
I think coming from a company that's based out of San Francisco, Toronto, London, and now Sydney, those are tech hubs. For a long time, they've been tech hubs. They've been predominantly an in-office environment hiring opportunity. I think what COVID taught us is that for many roles, we can do them elsewhere. We don't need to be in an office every day to prove our value, to prove our productivity. And so I think something that I like to see the world shifting to is international opportunity, countrywide opportunity. We are piloting 2 new countries in Europe right now, and we are doing that because we need more languages and we really need to get into the EU. And it was really easy for us to spin up an EOR, find some really wonderful talent, and give them an opportunity to succeed here at Enable. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, it would not have been as easy to go international as it is now, or even to a different state. Taking America as an example, we got all these states, everyone has different payroll taxes, everyone has different workers' compensation insurance information, everyone has different taxes, everyone has different everything. You almost have to set up a little mini business for each state that you're in, and it still is a lot of work. But I think tools are popping up, companies are popping up, solutions are coming to make that easier for everyone, because we learned really hard that we don't have to all be in the same location to drive really wonderful business outcomes and build a successful, high-performing business. So I think that's a new hurdle, or maybe a new opportunity for everyone, that our eyes are opening a little bit, like, interesting. Also, why I think a lot of these salary transparency laws are coming up and becoming so important, because if you can do the work from anywhere, should you be paid a different amount than someone in a different state?
Yep. Fabulous. So, we come to the end of our time here today. Thank you so much. But before we sign off, I wanted to end with a question that I ask every guest, and that is, if S2 Verify were to conduct a background screening check on you, are there any surprising discoveries or insights that we might obtain?
Oh, a background check on me. Yeah, maybe. So my very first role out of school was actually in sales. I was an account executive. I was going to take the tech world by storm and be the top grossing sales employee in San Francisco. And my God, did I hate it. I hated every second of it. I hate to lose more than I like to win. And that is the opposite mentality that you have to be a high attaining salesperson. So it's not too prevalent on my LinkedIn, but if you background check me, that would pop up. I was an account executive at ZenReach. Shout out to the company there. They're called YFATS now. They gave me my shot. But that's how I learned that I'm much better suited to be in this part of the business, because I don't lose. I won't. I refuse to lose. But the wins, I'm happy to be in the background, in the shadows, like a lot of people. People tend to be watching the success from behind stage.
Well, you're doing a great job. I can sense the enthusiasm that you have in the role that you're serving there at Enable, and so that's just wonderful. And I can't thank you enough for joining. But before we leave, would you mind telling our audience where they can learn more information about Enable and any other resources that you think are appropriate for the in the HR world, and how to contact you? So,
absolutely. So Enable, ENABLE. .com is our domain. Come check us out. We are hiring everywhere, by the way. Dublin and Amsterdam are our experimental EU countries right now. Or cities, excuse me. So take a look. We have offices everywhere, locations everywhere. I am just Alexandria Genetti on LinkedIn.com. Find me there. My last name's changing soon. I'll be Kramer here shortly. I'll keep the Genetti there, though, so you can find me.
Alex, thank you so much for, or should I say Mrs. Kramer, thank you so much for joining me today, and your insights are greatly appreciated. Please tune in next week when we continue our discussion on all of the evolving trends in HR today. And it goes without saying, let's get America back to work, because dreams only work if we do.
If you want to stay abreast of HR, recruiting, and hiring trends, tips, and tools, make sure you subscribe to America Back to Work. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a rating and a review.